This episode of 2.5 Geeks is brought to you by SanDisk. For 25 years, SanDisk has been expanding the possibilities of storage, delivering innovative products that companies and consumers count on. To find out more about how you can be ready for the future, visit sandisk.com/storage.
Coming up on Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, we'll be talking about the HTC One M8, then talking about a Micron SSD, contest details, and a whole lot more.
It's rocked in the benchmarks. We're going to up the ante a little bit.
Processing power, I kind of understand this. Welcome back to 2.5 Geeks. I'm Ayaz Akhtar alongside Dave Altavilla and Marco Chiappetta for 2.5 Geeks. This is the part where we ask, hey, Dave, how is you doing?
I am doing just dandy. It's great to be with you again. We missed you last week.
I missed me too. Marco, did you miss me?
I did not miss you, but I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, even though you didn't ask.
Yeah, well, thanks, pal. I'm going to fess up right now. This might be the most unprepared I've ever been for an episode. So this will be fun. I have nothing planned, and you guys are going to school me so well. You're gonna make it so easy to understand, because on this show, we talk about the hottest hardware, and these two gentlemen, because this is 2.5 Geeks, they are 100% geek. And I have like a mental block when it comes to graphics cards. These two gentlemen educate me and talk to you guys and make pretty much anything accessible to anybody, including myself. And I appreciate that. So that was far too long.
I'll explain everything to you, Ayaz, the same way I explain it all to Dave.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And unlike our previous setup, I am recording this again, so if Marco looks like he's calling from a 1997 webcam, I apologize. It's all on my end. I apologize once again. But the content is there, and it's going to be awesome. And this is great. Like, I have the lineup right here. I'm looking at it. This is my second screen. And we got Marco up first. And I don't even know what this means. We have an AMD Beema and Mullins low-power 2014 APUs tested, which, if I remember right, APUs are like a combined GPU and CPU, and that's AMD's little lingo. So I assume Beema and Mullins. Is that actually what? Can you explain to me what Beema and Mullins is? Are they two different things? Are they one thing? Because I am so unprepared. I apologize.
So they are different, but they're the same. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you know what Bay Trail is on Intel's side?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Beema and Mullins are AMD's low-power and mainstream APUs, accelerated processing units, for tablets and entry-level and mainstream notebooks. So these are basically competitors to Bay Trail and to the lower-end Celeron Pentium / lower-clocked Core series processors. Now, Beema is the code name for the mainstream part. These are 15-watt and 10-watt APUs, either quad-core or dual-core. If you come by the site, I have a chart with all the models that were announced, but they vary in clock speed from about 1.35 gigahertz on up to a max turbo of 2.4 gigahertz. Now, Mullins is the low-power version of the chip. This is only a 3.95 watt up to a 4.5 watt chip. They're either quad cores or dual cores, and they're clocked at 1.4 gigahertz on up to 2.2 gigahertz. And all of these APUs feature the same number of Radeon cores, onboard Radeon GCN-based graphics. They all have 128 Radeon cores for graphics, but the clock speeds vary on all of them. So you'll see some with Radeon R2 series graphics, or the higher end ones with R6 series graphics. It's all the same number of cores, just different clock speeds for those GPUs. Now, although there's different models, it's actually the same piece of silicon for both Beema and Mullins. And we got a chance, along with a really small select few of people, to test a Mullins-based AMD-built tablet a couple of weeks ago, and this article is where we present our findings. It's a pretty cool chip if you come by and check it out.
Now, I'm going to ask you, is cool a pun? Is it really that low power that doesn't require a ton of cooling as well? Or like,
pun.
I'm catching this stuff. I might be unprepared, but I know what's going on. But if you're talking about Bay Trail, I mean, Bay Trail is a big deal. So the question is this processor anywhere near a point where Intel should even worry?
Yes and no. So
Yeah.
I am not going to dive full in because the product I tested was a reference platform that will never hit retail. The particular tablet I tested is not going to ship. It was something AMD built to showcase the part. So I don't have definitive independent power testing, battery testing, things like that. What I can say is I tested a AMD. It's an A10 Micro 6700T based tablet, so the top of the line Mullins chip. In a tablet, completely passively cooled, 4.5 watt chip, does not have a fan. The AMD Discovery platform, as they called it, remained cool to the touch. Now, I want you guys to picture this. Picture a 10.1-inch tablet running full Windows 8.1 64-bit that's capable of running DX11 games smoothly at, say, 720p with high details. So on this particular tablet, I actually played Dirt Showdown on a 4.5 watt tablet. Is it perfectly smooth? No, but digest that for a second. A 4.5 watt tablet that doesn't get hot can play a DX11 title like Dirt Showdown. So it's a very cool chip. Now, whether or not AMD is able to sell a ton of them, that's a different story. In terms of tech, it's a cool part. It's absolutely a cool chip. Performance was good. If you come check our benchmarks, you'll see on the CPU side, it was competitive with Bay Trail. On the GPU side, it was way ahead. It actually competed with Kabini, which was a notebook part for AMD that came out in 2013. So in terms of performance, the technology involved, technology incorporated into the chip, it's absolutely an excellent part. Whether or not AMD can get the design wins, tough to say. Historically, they haven't done very well. Intel's got lots more money and backing to sort of fight their way into more design wins.
You know, that was a question I was going to have for you about design wins. The question of, yeah, AMD's processors are fantastic, APUs fantastic. Do they have anybody on board? Now, traditionally, as far as I've known, Dell seems like on their lower end, they bring in AMD every now and then. But can you hint upon anything, or at least from your history of, or at least your knowledge of history, are there any particular vendors you think are going to go, you know what, this APU is worth it, and we're going to see really low-priced tablets, because Microsoft has like lowered the bar. When it comes to Windows 8.1, they'll give that away for free for devices that are under 8 inches at this point. If they're running an AMD processor as well, we're talking about significantly cheap tablets. Do you have any inclinations as to what manufacturers will go AMD when it comes to this?
Yes. So Lenovo and Samsung have both made official announcements that they will have products based on the chips. I don't remember the exact models, but those two companies will definitely have stuff. I was just at an event in New York, and I believe Acer will have some mainstream notebooks with the latest APUs. I didn't see any AMD-based tablets, but I did see some notebooks. Basically, anybody that sold a Kabini-based device, I think you can expect to see these newer chips show up in them. It's actually a drop-in replacement for Kabini. So anybody that AMD had traditionally been doing business with, I think will come out with refreshed parts based on these chips. I should also mention, in addition to being low power and incorporating Radeon series graphics and a quad or dual cores on the CPU side, one really cool feature AMD brought in is an integrated ARM core. These are the first x86 processors with on-die ARM cores as well. It has what's known as a platform security processor that uses ARM's trust zone framework. So, for corporate devices, perhaps, maybe these are coming out, maybe they're not, but in time, once the software is set up to support it, these chips have those ARM cores on board to support the cryptography necessary for some of these trust zone applications. So lots of cool stuff AMD's done here.
Still going with cool, are you?
I'm tired, and that's the word that's coming out right now.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, we're recording this at a really late hour on the East Coast. It's about 11 o'clock or so, 11 p.m., and these gentlemen should be asleep. And speaking of asleep gentlemen, we haven't heard from Dave in a long time. I know that you guys have tested out the HTC One M8. This is the successor to the very popular HTC One. Some design changes, some really interesting ad campaigns with Gary Oldman, if you haven't noticed yet, where he literally says blah, 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 which I think is pretty gutsy. That's wonderful for a marketing message. Dave, what do you know about the actual hardware? Because this is, again, HTC is putting all their eggs in one basket, no pun intended, on the One.
Yeah, they've done a good job with the One M8, and we actually took it for a spin, and it's an impressive phone, no question about it. Like the previous generation device, build quality is fantastic. That brushed aluminum chassis that is it's probably one of the nicest built phones on the market. Period. Right now, currently, if you're talking about design aesthetic and mechanical design. Mechanical engineering prowess. The folks at HTC really knock it out of the park. And so it's a beautiful phone. 5-inch Super LCD 3 display with Corning Gorilla Glass 3, 1920 by 1080 resolution. Display is beautiful. I actually am currently right now taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy S5 as well. We hope to have that review up live tomorrow after we get done shooting here. And comparably, if you look at sort of three devices, I sort of watermarked each other. Nexus 5, Google Nexus 5, the HTC One M8, and the Samsung Galaxy S5. Comparably, if you look at those displays, the HTC One M8 is right about on par with the Nexus 5. It does not quite catch the saturation, brightness, and viewing angle that Samsung was able to capture with their Super AMOLED display in the Galaxy S5. It's real close, though. It is a beautiful display, no question about it. And the design of the HTC One M8, frankly, blows Samsung out of the water. The only gotcha there is it's a non-user replaceable battery, 2600 milliamp hour battery in the HTC One M8, 2800 milliamp hour battery in the GS5. So, enclosed battery, not serviceable by the user on the One M8, but really nice phone. Android 4.4.2 KitKat, lightly dressed with Sense 6, which actually I like. I think they've done a nice job with it. And the other thing that's really cool about this device, I'm not sure if you caught it, but it has a duo cam, what they call a duo camera on the back, which augments the rear-facing 4 megapixel, which sounds kind of low res. We can talk about that. 4 megapixel what they call ultra pixel camera. It augments that for really nice depth of field and bokeh effects. You can actually retarget focus afterwards with the phone software, and it's impressive. It's really does a nice job with the camera that it has to work with, that 4 megapixel camera.
I know we all have kids, or at least I have one. You guys have kids. And what drives me nuts about the HTC One M8 is that the front-facing camera is 5 megapixels, the rear-facing 4. You can't actually switch the mode into having that amazing camera thing. I think Oppo allows you to select on their phones whether you're going to do like a 12 or a 4, depending on how you're doing the ultra-pixel or not. Do you find that, to me, is actually a deal breaker? That drives me insane. What do you find to be a thing that says, look, if I'm going to choose an Android phone, I'm going to pick an S5 over an M8? Because the M8, to me, is almost perfect, except that camera is driving me insane.
Yeah, honestly, for me, the one thing that sort of turned me off from the M8, I'm leaning towards the Galaxy S5, but it's a toss-up. These two, these new flagship phones that are coming out, and we have the LG G3 right around the corner as well. They're impressive. I mean, they're all decked out with the latest hardware. You get 802.11ac Wi-Fi on board. You've got Qualcomm Snapdragon 801, which is, in the case of the M8, a 2.3 gigahertz processor with Adreno 330 graphics. And on the Galaxy S5, it's 2.5 gigahertz, quad-core, again, Adreno 330 graphics. These phones are just strapped, loaded for bear with all the latest bells and whistles. For me, the one thing that sort of rubs me the wrong way are on-screen control buttons that consume some of that screen real estate. So you have this beautiful 5-inch display where a part of it, a little band across the bottom, and sometimes with KitKat, they're translucent buttons for like menu, back, and home. But I really like to have those buttons on the bezel, on the bottom, and I want every bit of that screen. That's one of the things I look at personally. And again, I just think, for me anyways, I think the GS5 just has that much more pop with the screen. They both fly. But yeah, for me, it's making use of that screen, and I like phones that have those function buttons on the front bezel versus on the display itself.
Marco, you're a big phone fan. I've known you for a long time. You've had a bunch of weird phones. Do you have any opinions on the M8?
I do. I was just playing with it earlier, actually. So just to go back to your comment about the 4 megapixel camera kind of being a deal breaker, that it's not your standard run-of-the-mill 4 megapixel camera.
It takes beautiful shots.
Calls it an ultra pixel sensor because, yeah, it's 4 megapixels, but the actual pixels on the sensor are larger than normal, and between the optics and the sensor itself, you get much better low light performance. So yeah, more megapixels are better if you want to print, say, big, poster size photos. But for sharing or for email or just putting up on the web, it's a better quality image, and you're really not wasting any resolution. If you're going to resize something for the web, 4 megapixels is way more than enough. So if that is the one thing holding you back from grabbing an M8 and you love everything else, I don't think you should let that hold you back.
Yeah. I will say that you can, if you're viewing pictures on a large display, you can actually tell the difference in the resolution. But you're talking about viewing something on a TV size display, or maybe it's a 27 or a 30-inch desktop monitor where you're zooming in to that full resolution and looking at pixels. You actually can see a little bit of the difference, just barely, if you're looking for it. But yeah, for general purpose, this camera does really well. And you mentioned low light performance. It's impressive how well it does in low light.
Well, there's definitely a very interesting class of phones out there right now. We've got the M8, we've got the S5, we've got the upcoming iPhone 6 one day, which is like September. That's the rumor. So who knows which thing? To me, I like
and the
cameras.
G3.
And the I'm sorry, you guys know this. You guys run a site. I happen to be kind of a part of a very large site. When it comes to LG, those two letters don't matter to people.
No, they don't.
No.
Not enough, unless it's Google, because they built the Nexus 5 and it's a beautiful device.
Exactly. If they just said that, if they just drop LG and it's called a Google Nexus Maker, anyway, that's a whole other issue. We'll talk about this when we're off air. Let's go talk about an SSD. We've got a Micron M500 DC enterprise level SSD. It's about the same size as a phone. No screen, no camera, so I can't complain about cameras today. But let's talk about this, because Marco's probably got one in his bag of tricks. Can you tell us about the Micron M500?
Yeah, I was just going to. You said it's about the same size of a phone. It ain't the same size as my phone. That's for damn.
Well, you're running like phones that are the size of like, I don't know what, like a building brick.
Yeah, and Windows Phone 8.1, by the way, I signed myself up as a dev to get Windows Phone 8.1 on the Nokia 1520.
Nice.
Huge upgrade. It's awesome. So yeah, the Micron M500 DC is their latest data center drive, hence the DC in the model number. Very, very cool SSD. So let me just get some quick specs out of the way. These are going to be offered in two sizes. There's going to be 1.8-inch versions and standard 2.5-inch versions in capacities of 120 gigabytes up to 800 gigabytes. It's standard SATA 6 interface. It's using MLC NAND, so the same type of NAND used in lots of consumer drives. It's got a Marvell controller, tried and true Marvell controller, but tons of, Micron special magic going on here. So Intel and Micron have a partnership for building NAND flash. And what Micron is doing with these drives is basically keeping the best of the best chips for themselves. So in a data center type application, you want the most reliable drive. You want a drive that, you can rest assured is not going to die on you. Of course, there's going to be some failure, but Micron is binning these chips to take the best of the best for themselves. They've also incorporated lots of, enterprise class features like power protection and data path protection for error correction and things like that. All in all, this drive has basically all of the features you'd want in terms of reliability and security. but it's also been tweaked for performance versus the previous gen. So you'll see, greater than 60,000 IOPS. You'll see transfer speeds in excess of 425 on sequentials and writes in the 375 to 400 megabyte range. So it's sort of the best of both worlds. You get the affordability of an MLC-based drive. You get lots of Micron's expertise. You get specially binned NAND flash to keep the reliability and performance up, all in a standard SSD package.
All right, Mr. Brightside. You're going to say everything positive about this device. Now, there must be a downside to this, because it sounds too... if it's enterprise level and never fails, and it's really fast, it's been tweaked, there's got to be some kind of pain point, because I feel it coming. It might be a price. It's a guess.
There's a couple of pain points, but this is not Micron only. So lots of these latest drives, they're bumping up against the limits of SATA. So yeah, it's fast, but there are tons of fast drives that use the same interface. In terms of pricing, here's like the real weird kicker that comes with reviewing data center drives. They don't really release regular pricing for the reviews. If you're buying one of these drives, you're buying it through like a channel partner. You're not going to Micro Center or Staples and picking it up off a shelf. You won't even find it at like places like Newegg yet. So believe it or not, I don't have final pricing on the drive. What I do know is that Micron is positioning it to be competitive with more mainstream entry-level type data center drives. So figure maybe 2 to 3x the price of a consumer class drive.
Okay, so it's a little bit more expensive, and
yes.
But this has a particular kind of usage scenario. It's not like meant for us. Actually, no, it's probably meant for Marco, maybe Dave. But for normal people, this is an enthusiast kind of thing. I think it's.
Yeah, this is not a normal person drive for your next build. This is I'm an IT guy and I'm building a server and I want it to have 99.99 uptime and it's storing mission critical data, and you want an SSD from a company like Crucial or Intel or someone like that. That's who's going to be shopping for this drive.
Right, sounds like a majorly important device if you're going to be running an enterprise. I think what I like to do. I like to game. I know you guys don't believe me. I like games. You guys are laughing at me. This is how bad.
Candy Crush doesn't count.
No, I'm not talking about video games. I like mental games. I like messing with people's minds. You guys like playing games that have with resolutions and like actual video games. Video games.
Who has time to game?
It's a bigger game. It's higher res. I like real life games. But anyway, let's talk about this Alienware 17, because I'm telling you, I'm looking at this lineup here. I'm assuming this is about Alienware 17, AMD's R9 M290X. Your headline says it goes mobile. Alienware, again, bought by Dell. Awesome gaming company when it comes to laptops. You've got a review up, I assume, unless I'm totally wrong. I told you I was woefully unprepared. And this is all up to Dave. So if you're prepared, tell me about this Alienware, please.
No review up. We're looking at the Ford Pinto this week, actually.
The Ford Pinto, a fantastic car that is completely and utterly. You know what? If you want the definition of lackluster, Pinto.
I lied. We did review it. And actually, we sort of have a two teed up two laptops for you that we'll briefly touch on here. The Alienware 17 with AMD's Radeon R9 M290X gaming notebook, and then also the Samsung ATIV 9 Plus, which we'll talk about a little bit different take there, Ultrabook style. So yeah, let's talk about the Alienware machine. The Alienware 17, this product family of notebooks with Alienware has been around for a while, and the design aesthetic, the design look and feel is pretty similar to the way it's been for the last couple of generations. Big, beautiful, flat black machine, matte finish. And, this is the 17-inch version. They also have an 18-inch version. We took a look at the 17.3-inch Full HD 1920 by 1080p display with an Intel Core i7-4700 MQ processor that's Haswell, and a single AMD Radeon R9 M290X GPU with 4 gig
of GDDR5 on board, and 16 gig of RAM, and 256 gig SSD, and a 1 terabyte hard drive, all on board. This thing is decked out, loaded for bear. I don't have the exact weight, but these machines range in the area of about 12 pounds. So, you're not going to be running through airports with this sucker. But it is a big, beautiful machine that does game quite nicely. Little bit of a misnomer for the AMD R9 290MX, or 290 M290X, excuse me. When I say misnomer, it's really a rebranding of a previous gen GPU. It's actually formerly the Radeon HD 8970M. So it is not their latest architecture, Hawaii-based core. It's the previous generation, but it still is a very potent graphics processor, and is able to game at full native 1080p res in some of the latest high-end DX11 titles like BioShock Infinite and Hitman Absolution, with all the image quality dialed up. So really, really a nice machine. Little bit funky that AMD comes out and rebrands things that are slightly confusing, suggesting it's the latest architecture when it's not. So we'll just throw that out there and make you aware of it.
It's a 12-pound machine with some confusing branding. How is the design on this actual device? Because Alienware usually pretty funky, change up colors. Is there anything sleek or new about this?
No, you get the standard sort of Alienware effects. I mean, you can customize the colors in the keyboard. You can set it up different things. It's sort of dialed in with their usual assortment of what they call alien effects. The keyboard is big, it's spacious and gorgeous, beautiful big trackpad, very comfortable experience. I mean, it's really a full sort of desktop style accompaniment with a 17-inch display. That it is just a super premium machine. There's no question about it. Dolby Home Theater 4 technology on board. The speakers actually sound pretty solid. There's enough critical mass in this sucker that you can actually put a decent set of speakers in it. So an impressive machine for sure. Build quality is top notch. Reliability with these machines over the years has been solid as well. And in the benchmarks, it's one of the fastest machines out there currently for gaming notebooks. We actually, in a few of the benchmarks, because we have to refresh our benchmarks suites, we're matching it up versus desktop graphics. In some of the games like BioShock Infinite and whatnot. So you're talking about that sort of thing, sort of a mid-range desktop gaming. Sort of horsepower built into a notebook that you can literally just pack up and carry around to the LAN party or what have you. And it's a nice machine. Pricey, to be sure. It's one of those things where it's the top shelf premium product as configured as we tested it was $2,500. So it ain't cheap. But if you got a game and you want nothing but, the best in terms of the latest hardware, processors from Intel, graphics from AMD, SSD on board, this is it. This is sort of the pinnacle of gaming notebooks.
Now, I have a tendency just to move on to the next thing. Is there anything you want to say about this laptop before we move on, and/or about the Samsung ATIV Book 9? Because I want to say that. For the record, I think that's a terrible name. ATIV Book 9, and they have a series of really poorly named devices, and I think they're really sleek, well built, performance is good. Crappy names. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Dave?
Yeah, that was an interesting summary of it. They are built fantastic, actually. The ATIV Book 9 Plus is what we tested. Has a 13.3-inch QHD display. That's 3200 by 1800 res. 350 nits of brightness. It's a touchscreen, and it's just fantastic. Now, we saw a similar setup in the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon for 2014. Took a look at that not too long ago as well. really, again, and now you've got a situation where it's kind of a toss-up. The design, I really like the design of the Samsung notebook. It's beautiful. The touchpad is huge. It's super thin. It has a little bit more rigid aluminum frame. The displays are very comparable. They're both running, Core i5 Haswell processors, 4200U in this case, and you can get different configurations, onboard SSDs, all the latest stuff, 802.11ac wireless, all that good stuff. The difference between the two, and I think these two machines are comparable. If you're talking price, they're fairly close on par as well. But the difference is you get sort of a little bit more premium build quality, I think, in the chassis of the ATIV product, the Samsung product. You get a better keyboard in those Lenovo keyboards in the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. So it's just really one of those things, kind of a toss-up. I like the Lenovo build too in the X1 Carbon. It's really nice as well. A little bit more, a little bit thinner, a little bit sleeker with the Samsung machine, and but they're both fantastic. Probably my two favorite Ultrabooks on the market right now. Currently, I really like that 13.3 form factor. I think that's sort of perfect sweet spot for work and just general utility notebook. And 3 pounds or less. It's fantastic stuff.
These sound like beautiful pipe dream laptops that I can never afford. You guys give away stuff from time to time. And again, I'm never eligible, but you guys, the viewers, the listeners,
we like to tease.
At HotHardware.com and watching 2.5 Geeks, you guys have the opportunity to win stuff every now and then. Marco, do you happen to have any contests kicking around or stuff you're like, you know what, I got this box over here in the corner I want to give away? Because Marco's garbage is so much better than the stuff on my desk right now, which is very sad. Is there anything you could talk about, Marco?
Yes, we're a couple of parts away from finalizing the whole thing, so I'm not going to disclose everything. It definitely is not garbage. It's let's see, it will be Intel's top-of-the-line Ivy Bridge E processor, a X79 motherboard, GeForce GTX 7 Series graphics, 16 gigs of RAM, and a beautiful SSD. We're finalizing some of the other parts, but we are going to build a killer, ultra high-end gaming rig. I'm going to put it together on video, and like all of our previous contests, going to be super easy to win. We want you to come by the site, engage with other readers, comment on news stories and articles, just generally have some fun, and the machine could be yours if you contribute some quality content and you are randomly selected. So we're really, really close to making the official announcement. I know this is the second time we're teasing it, but we're almost there, I promise.
I will say that it is going to be rocking one of the fastest Intel desktop processors money can buy. One of the fastest.
The other thing
currently.
Is,
how's that?
Because not only does it have amazing hardware in there, the craftsmanship that is done by Marco Chiappetta.
The craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship. I didn't say craftsmanship. I said craftsmanship.
I like it the other way.
They both apply.
Well, no, they don't, because this guy I've seen. I have one of his machines. He spends the most time, builds the most beautiful machines. This is the stuff that other companies pride themselves on, and that's what Marco does. And if you get to win this PC, it's going to be freaking awesome. You're going to open up this PC, you're going to look at it, and you're going to be like, I need to learn these tricks because this man knows what he's doing. It's a fantastic job. I've always marveled at when we got to build that PC together years ago, and I get to see the stuff you guys have done. It's been amazing. So when you get to win this, dear viewer, you're in for a huge treat because it's awesome hardware and it's beautifully done. It's the best thing because as a nerd, I'm a big fan. Anyway, enough of my being nice to people.
Gushing, yes.
Yes. Dave, how's it going?
Oh, it's fantastic. All and right. You?
Wonderful. Anyway, if you're like, hey guys, I want to join these contests. I want to win this amazing PC. I want to have what these guys are talking about. Check out HotHardware.com. That's where you're going to find contest details and every article we talked about today, because every single day, HotHardware.com is putting up new reviews, new opinions, awesome rumors, some interesting stuff going on right now. I think AT&T is trying to buy DirecTV, and I found that out because of Hot Hardware on Twitter, because I happen to follow this. If you didn't know this, Hot Hardware is all over the place on the internet. It's on Twitter. If you go to twitter.com/HotHardware, you can find Hot Hardware. Hit follow, get all these awesome information. Then there's also Facebook. Marco, if I want to go to Facebook, what should I do?
Point your browser to facebook.com/HotHardware.
Dave, I'm going to give you Google+. My favorite.
Let's see. plus.google.com/plus HotHardware.
And youtube.com/HotHardwareVids. So VIDS at the end of that. Because if you like to watch video like you do right now, if you want to watch more video, awesome reviews, awesome, I wouldn't say teardowns, but like seeing things from the inside out, great videos, and getting to know the actual products. Because there's nothing like a video. I'm a big video guy. You guys like videos?
Sure.
It's tired. You guys are tired. It's late on the East Coast. They can agree to anything. Hey, you guys like losing your teeth to like a really rusty plier?
Sure.
All right. You can find Hot Hardware and Rusty Pliers at rustypliers.com/HotHardware. Actually, don't type that in. I have no idea what's going to happen. I apologize for that in advance. Anyway, is there anything else we should tell the audience before we leave?
Sleep.
Thanks. Yes. Sleep well, and thanks for stopping by.